Hello, and welcome to the Brave New Weed podcast. And now, here's your host, Joe Dolce.
Thanks for joining us on this week's version of the Brave New Weed podcast. I'm your host, Joe Dolce, and I'm here with Alan Seals, one of the co-founders of the Brave New Weed podcast, who's been rather quiet and in the background for the last year and a half. Hi, Alan. Welcome out.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me.
So glad you were able to come out of your quiet closet.
Yeah, someone's got to keep track of you on this trip.
Matthew couldn't join us in Denver because he's happily living and working in Berlin. So very happy that you joined us on this trip.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As you know, GoFire is our sponsor for this special series in Denver, 5 years after legalization. But GoFire itself is a very interesting device, one that people in the medical cannabis industry have been waiting for a very long time, something that measures precisely the amount of an inhalation. So it's no longer, take a couple of hits on a vaporizer, take a couple of hits on an inhaler, take a couple of hits on a joint. Now you can actually say you can take 2.5 milligrams, which is a pretty minimal dose of cannabinoids. And I think it's also quite below the threshold level. So if you're not interested in psychoactivity, you'll probably be able to get out without much. You may have a little smile on your face, but you're not going to get a lot more than that. So that means you can go to work and function and have a full and productive life in the way you normally would if you don't want psychoactivity, but do need relief for your condition. So we're very excited to visit GoFire in their offices in downtown Denver, where we got a tour of the device, a tour of the app, a tour of their offices, and we even have some special bonus content for those who have our Patreon supporters. Alan, it was a video we made, right?
Yeah. Peter Calfee, the CEO, actually gave us a demo of how it worked, and we tried it, and we've got some footage of the app in action. You can get all that and more if you head over to patreon.com/bravenewweed.
Again, you may want to check them out if you are a medical cannabis patient. You can find them on the web at gofire.co, GOFIRE.co. Here's our interview with Peter Calfee at GoFire.
You can like and follow the Brave New Weed podcast on all the best social media platforms. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/bravenewweed, or on Twitter at Brave New Weed, or Instagram at Brave New Weed.
I'm here with Peter Calfee. He's the CEO of GoFire.
Excellent, Joe. Appreciate you taking the time with me.
I'm very happy to meet you, sir.
I think it's going to be a fun conversation here.
Tell our listeners what GoFire is. I'll let you do the intro.
Of course. So GoFire is a digital health suite. The whole idea was, how do you allow patients to have transparency and control into what products they're actually taking into their body?
It's very confusing, Peter. Tell us what it is.
Well, at the end of the day, it's an app that allows you to track use and effect and search by ailment to find specific products. So you can search for pain, and it'll actually populate a list of what products are going to work best for pain, all based on the anonymous feedback of the community around you.
So you said it's an app, but it's also a device. Am I correct? It's not just an app. It's not information only, is it?
That's correct, yeah. So the device itself is actually built as a feature that allows for, again, that consistency and control, specifically within alternative health and plant-based medicine. So the idea here is that with the device, we're able to control your dose in 2.5 milligram increments.
Perfect.
There's a smart cartridge that when you drop into that device, it actually recognizes the chemical profile contained within that cartridge. Now, there's no analysis actually happening within the device. What it's doing is it's calling out to the server, and the server's kicking back the third-party lab test results of exactly what makes up that product.
So for people who don't speak cannabis, that means that you have created almost like a vaporizing instrument. Is it vaporizing?
Yeah, so it's actually convection. It's true vaporization.
Better, a convection vaporizer that will heat an oil and deliver a microdose, 2.5 milligrams, which is a very small dose of cannabinoids, into the lungs, so you get an immediate effect, correct?
That is correct.
And then it will measure the cannabinoid content of what you've done and probably track it and give you all sorts of endless data that you may or may not be able to use?
Yeah, and so that is spot on, and I think I should back up and start at the beginning. So December 18th, 2014, John Woodbine, who's my co-founder, we met and we got into a conversation, and he said, "I want to build a vaporizer." Now, my initial reaction was, hell no, go have fun on Alibaba playing with all the rebranded e-cigarette crap. I'm not touching it, right? I'm just not interested. That being said, he said, no, I want to take it one step further. I really want to focus on how do we allow for essentially enable the shot glass within this industry, within this space, and give those patients control over, again, how much they're taking into their body, right? Create a controlled experience. So we kicked off on that wild endeavor, and we got about 3 months. It only took us a couple months to figure it out how we were going to do. And what we did was we incorporated a syringe technology or a pipette into the device. So we're doing a physical extrusion of product into a chamber where we know exactly how much has been extruded. And then we're able to vaporize just the product that's been extruded, right? And remove the fear of taking too much or being out of control.
Uh-huh.
That being said, and I touched on it earlier when we were speaking, we realized we only had half the puzzle, and we realized that without knowing the chemical makeup of what you're consuming, a dose is relatively irrelevant.
Pretty much.
And so again, in the same way, when you go to the store and you buy a bottle of Advil, you're buying 40 capsules. Each capsule contains 250 milligrams of ibuprofen. Now, I know that I only need one to make my headache go away. I use my girlfriend as my example. She takes
three.
Exactly. Joe needs 3 as well. So again, throughout that process, we really wanted to, we said, okay, well, we have to be able to track the chemical profile as well as the dose if we're going to allow for patients to experience repeatable sessions, right? So what we did was, the obvious answer was to use the smartphone as a conduit to speak to a server where we could pull the lab test results that are required by law. So that, again, in that app on that smartphone, you could actually pull up and see the chemical profile of what you're consuming. You could then correlate that back to the dose, and now all of a sudden you're starting to see a repeatable experience because we're controlling all the variables.
So you and I think, both know that strain names don't really reveal very much, right? It's sort of bullshit,
to say the least.
So,
and I played in genetics for years and years.
You did? Okay.
I did.
We all know that, whatever you grow in California is not what you grow in Colorado, which is not what you grow in New York, and the soil, the climate, everything changes the composition of the plant. So strain is not a very reliable indicator. How will people be able to know that the cannabinoid content within the cartridge is exactly what you're saying it is?
So we really focus on, again, a batch-specific profile, right? So we're not looking at what X strain's chemical makeup is. What we're interested in is that specific batch of product. When it's manufactured, a piece of that product goes to the testing facilities. That testing facility then runs it through all of these different tests, potency, microbials, residual solvent, et cetera, to approve that for sale within the state. What we're doing is we're actually pulling on that third-party validated lab test result.
I see.
So it really is batch specific. So what we're doing, again, with our cartridges is each different cartridge is assigned a unique ID number. That ID number is correlated to the batch ID number. Therefore, again, if we have another jelly bean that comes out, right, a different strain or the same strain that comes out that's from a different batch, we look at it as a completely different product.
Okay. And you're making your own cartridges that fit this machine, correct?
That's correct. Because of how we do, first off, to back up, I think I mentioned this is a convection vaporizer. There are very few of these that actually exist on the marketplace. One of the reasons why I turned down the idea behind just another vaporizer initially was because when you look at what we're actually doing when you fire a cartridge, what you're really doing is you're heating up a filament that's sitting in a reservoir surrounded by that product, right? And the oil. And when you turn it on, you are essentially burning. There's no vaporization. You're really burning. It's combustion. And so the term vaporizer is actually a little bit of a misnomer.
And what you're describing is the conduction vaporizer that most people are familiar with, a pen vaporizer, anything inexpensive and quite discreet. Am I correct?
Exactly. And part of the problem with that is that, again, how these work is you're essentially pushing a ton of power through a very thin, normally low quality metal, primarily nichrome, which then off gas.
Nichrome?
Yep.
That's a metal?
It's a specific metal, and I'm getting a little bit out of my wheelhouse. We could pull on my CTO for this, but it's a specific metal. It's very, very soft, and when you push energy through it, it starts to off gas, and tiny metal particulates are breaking off, and that's actually why you can actually taste it. So if you're using one of these 510s, you'll actually taste it's almost like you're sucking on a nickel, right? That you might taste again at the back of your flavor palette.
I'm gonna have to try that now and think about that. I've never thought about sucking on a nickel.
It's honestly something that once you realize what it is, it's absolutely terrifying. That you're inhaling tiny metal particulates
So are you telling me all
into your
these
lungs.
people, millions and millions of people running around smoking these vaporizers thinking it's the next best thing since sliced bread, are actually killing themselves?
I'm not going to
slowly?
make that claim.
Like Alan, our producer, who's sitting in this room with us.
I am not going to make that claim, but I can say that the GoFire vaporizer is the most the safest vaporizer on the market, or soon to be on the market, and without a doubt, because of the convection system we've created, is by far and large the cleanest vapor you will ever.
So other
experience.
convection vaporizers in the market for listeners are the Firefly.
Correct. Yep.
And
the Crafty Stoles and Bickle.
Crafty, which Stores and Bickle was the first.
Yep.
And I know this from writing about it and experiencing it. It's basically like you're heating around the oil. It's like a convection oven. You're circulating hot air around, so nothing is actually burning, but it is heating it and then releasing a vapor.
You got it.
And once I like a convection vaporizer, and I'm spoiled because once you begin using a convection vaporizer, it's very hard to go back to the other thing.
Exactly. Yep.
You find that?
Yep, without a doubt.
Why?
Again, I go back to it's the quality of the vapor itself. When you don't realize that because it's this, we call it an electronic vaporizer, right? It's in your hand. If you think that it's true vapor, but again, with these 510s, it's not actually true vapor. So you're really inhaling smoke into your lungs. Now, once you switch to a convection vaporizer, it's funny. The first time that I let people try my device, sometimes they come away from it and they actually are exhaling. They say, "I don't think I got much."
That's right.
And as they're saying this smoke or vapor is billowing out of their mouth.
But it's quite cool.
But it's quite cool. It's almost a cool vapor experience.
Yeah, and you're not really. It tends to make you cough less for some reason. Why is that?
Again, it comes down to it's really a phase change of the product. So you're changing an oil into a gas and then back into an oil, versus again inhaling carcinogens and in a smoke form, right?
Well, you're really bad for the vaporizer industry, aren't you?
Again, the first time when John said I want to build a vaporizer, my reaction was, no way am I getting involved with this. This is not my forte. I'm a purist. And that being said, as he dove in, it became clear that what he was getting at is something that the world hasn't seen yet. And I want to bring the focus back to, again, not just the meter dose inhaler, but really, again, why we did this whole play. And
tell us.
And it all comes down to, again, transparency and choice. I don't know if you're familiar. Let's see. So let me back up. The idea behind the app was, for the first time, if you're a new consumer stepping into the space and you're trying to find something that's going to work for your pain or your anxiety or help you sleep at night. I get text messages all the time from friends of friends of friends who are reaching out to me saying, well, I have restless leg syndrome. What's going to work for that? And I don't know. I look at myself as one of the authorities in this space, and I can't give them an answer. And we've realized, okay, how can we create a tool that acts as an anonymous data aggregator, where essentially it's like Waze meets Yelp for the alternative health space, where we can collect all of this feedback on how these different products are working, all again in an anonymous format.
Somebody called you the Fitbit for the vaporizing space, but I think you should be called the Hitbit.
It's
That's free.
I'll take it. I'll take it. We'll pass to the marketing
Sorry to
team.
interrupt you. I just had to say.
I love it. I love it. But again, at the end of the day, it was how do you we look at this current marketplace, and it's a growing market. It's growing every single day, but it's still tiny. It's minuscule compared to what I believe it will be. And to get it to where I think it needs to go, which is, again, looking at it as a true alternative to your standard pharmaceutical regimen if you're a medical patient, we need to allow for that consistency and control. It just doesn't.
No doubt.
It just doesn't exist.
There's no doubt.
And so what we're trying to do with this whole platform is allow patients to gain insights by learning from their community. Right, in this anonymous forum. So again, you can search for pain. It's going to generate a list of all the products that are going to work best for pain, whether that's smart cartridges that work in our device, or even 510s, or edibles, topicals, sublinguals, etc., across the board, so that you can find the right product for you. That's going to give you the relief you deserve. At some point,
listen back to a podcast we did. I think maybe it was episode 9 or 11. It's called Relief Without the High, which is this program I've been developing, which shows people how to use CBD first and then microdoses of THC to alleviate 3 conditions: pain, anxiety, stress, and insomnia. It's exactly what you described. And it's very difficult to say, take a hit on a vaporizer if you want to, get to sleep, because it isn't measured. And it's very hard to be, it is very hard to be consistent on that. And you may be the answer to relief without the high.
Well, and
one answer anyway.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we're all part of the solution, and we're all moving the same way. And again, this industry is evolving at an incredible rate. At the end of the day, I was a patient. I am a patient myself.
I am going to ask you your story. So tell us a little.
So actually, 4 days after we got our first check of funding for GoFire, I was the passenger in a car and was in a head-on collision. The driver actually had a seizure out of the blue, traveling 55 miles per hour. We were moving headed from Lafayette out towards I-25
in Colorado.
So I was actually looking down at my notes, going through my notes. I was talking to him in the middle of the conversation. He stopped talking, and I look up, and he's seizing. So I grabbed the wheel. We dodged a couple cars. We actually ended up. It was the worst case scenario of chicken, and we ended up colliding back in my lane because I was finally getting it over there. This individual who was driving an SUV looked up. I believe she was texting, and her reaction was to swerve away from me. And again, worst case scenario of chicken, we both ended up colliding. That being said, I was hospitalized for about 6 weeks. I was bedbound for about 6 months. I wasn't walking for about 4 months of that. And this was 4 days after we got our first check of funding for the company.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that. But that being said, I wouldn't be where I am today if that didn't happen. It changed my life for the better, in a sense.
So what happened to you? You spinal injury? What was it?
Yeah, so it was a burst fracture to my L3, stress fracture to my L4. It was
your lumbar.
My lumbar.
Vertebrae.
Yep, exactly. And it, not a good scene. That being said, I left the hospital 6 weeks after the injury, and they gave me a black bag full of enough opiates for me to again be quote unquote pain-free for the rest of my life. But at the end of the day, it was truly a fast track to addiction. Because here you have, young at the time. Let's see, I want to say I was 24 years old, give or take a year. Would have been 23. And I'm restricted to my bed. I can't move, and I'm in excruciating pain. And I'm supposed to be taking these pills all throughout the day. This one I'm supposed to take 3 times a day. This one I'm supposed to take 4 times a day. This one I'm supposed to take as needed whenever the pain reaches an unbearable level. This one I'm supposed to take if I experience nausea from all these other ones I was taking.
Right.
And so the running joke is that's when John and I got in bed together, my co-founder.
He literally got in bed with you.
Well, yes. So
you couldn't get out of the bed.
I couldn't get out of the bed. We were writing our first patent, and he actually hopped in bed with me to write that first patent, which actually was just approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an exciting time. But when that happened, when he got in bed with me, we're trying to write this patent, and I don't know if you've ever done any any patent work, but it's
Thankfully, no.
It's, figure 37, see figure 37, piece Z fits into piece 1A and rotates 180 degrees to the left, right? It's very monotonous. It's very specific work, right? And here I am all doped up. And I could not focus to the extent that I couldn't get through this patent writing. So that was when I started to titrate myself off of these opiates and look to, again, alternative medicine as my solution. John had just come back with the first model, which you saw outside in the office.
First model of the GoFire.
Of the GoFire, of the meter dose inhaler. And I was able to use that as my tool to control how much I was taking. So I was still cognizant. I was still able to do my job. We were still able to get through this patent, but I wasn't being bogged down. And again, I wasn't chasing the dragon of the opiates world. And to be candid, GoFire saved my life because of that. I don't know if I'd be here today. I've lost a few friends through the progression of, again, broke my arm, was put on opiates, ran out of opiates, went to the street to find other drugs, went down that path. And these are upstanding citizens, right? These are the top of my class in high school, the kids I grew up with. And they're going down this route, and it's absolutely terrifying. So again, as we looked at this, we really wanted to create, again, a vehicle for consistency and control. Because at the end of the day, when you look to a physician to start being able to, just as you said, actually be able to prescribe this, not just recommend that you go down to the corner and you buy a joint and you see how it makes you feel. Because first off, are we talking about a pinner or are we talking about Cheech and Chong here? Exactly.
What were you looking for?
Neither do I, and neither does my doctor.
Were you a big smoker at the time? I mean, were you, experienced cannabis user?
I would say I was an experienced user.
Okay.
I've played all over this industry. That being said, I never looked at it as a tool for pain relief.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
And
I know you look at it as something else, and then suddenly it's, oh wait, it actually does this.
It's my saving grace.
At a lower dose, it really does this. It's quite interesting, right? Because at a high dose, it may not necessarily reduce some of that stuff.
Exactly.
Did you find that?
Without a doubt. And my biggest thing is we've got 24, 23 employees full time. They are my responsibility. I can't be high on whether it be opiates or, again, some alternative medicine. It doesn't matter what it is. I cannot be high and still be looking over and watching out for the company as we continue to grow and scale. I need to be able to be cognizant. I need to be able to get through the day. I also need to be pain-free.
Are you?
I am, relatively. I still have breakthrough pain.
It's definitely not the full answer. But breakthrough pain is, I guess you can vaporize. Are you using the device currently?
Without a doubt.
Oh, you are?
So for me, I've found within 10 seconds, when I get breakthrough pain, it puts me on my knees. The team has seen me go down, and it's out of nowhere. And I fall on the ground whimpering. That being said, within 10 minutes of me bringing the GoFire to my lips, within 10 seconds of me bringing the GoFire to my lips, I am seeing the decline in that pain, and it is a lifesaver.
Have you shown this to any of your doctors? Do you have a pain relief specialist?
I've moved away because I'm not on opiates. I don't use standard care the same way many others do. Because that's what they've constantly been pushing me towards. And it's just not an option in my book.
Do you use any other phytomedicines or plant-based medicines for pain relief?
Honestly, not really. I'm pretty loyal, as they say. That being said, I'm not just using inhalable medicine. Topicals are how I get through conferences. Edibles are when I'm not dealing with breakthrough, when I'm dealing with, again, sometimes it's essentially I'm throwing out my back because I'm missing part of my vertebrae. It's easier for me to do. That's when I need an edible to get me through the day because it's more of that extended relief.
And are you using a CBD-based edible, or are you using a 1-to-1, or are you using THC primarily?
I'm a big fan of 1-to-1. Again, we see the compounding benefits. We're actually even starting to see that in some of the data that we're collecting. We're seeing the compounding benefit of, again, once you combine some of these chemical compounds together, actually, X's the effect of that specific product.
Can you be specific?
Again, I find 3-to-1 CBD to THC is the sweet spot for me.
A lot of people say that, by
Yep.
the way. And at what milligram dosage?
Honestly, I'm 2.5 to 5 milligrams.
You're still low dose.
I'm low dose.
Super low dose.
Yep, without a doubt.
It's so fascinating.
Without a
isn't
doubt.
it? It's unlike other medicines. It's not like you take more, you get more. Like it's not like take 3 aspirins if one doesn't work for your headache.
Exactly. And I go back to with these doctors, right? We talk about, so how do we get the doctors on board, right?
Yeah, how do you? Have you talked to anybody?
We have an incredible medical advisory board behind us made up of clinicians and physicians.
All based in Colorado?
Actually, all across the U.S. Really, at the end of the day, what we like to say is enabling the prescription pad. Right now, what I mean by that is a physician is very comfortable telling you again what's on a prescription pad. I need you to take this drug. I need you to take this. This drug at this dose this many times a day. Right, and that's if you look at any prescription, that's what's covered if you can read it. Right. Yeah. That being said, when we talk about alternative health, when we talk about plant-based medicine, we don't have those same controls. Right, it's very difficult to create that consistency and control within the space. So everything that we do at GoFire actually enables the physicians to have that consistency and
they
control.
can look at the database. Is that it?
Not just the database, that as well. That's really their guide. But outside of that, for the first time, they can tell a patient to not just go down to the store at the corner and try it and tell me if it worked or not, but they can actually say, hey, I want you to go find this specific product. I want you to consume it 3 times a day at 2.5 milligrams per session. Now tell me how that worked. Oh, okay, we need to titrate up your dose. We need to change the chemical profile. This is how physicians are trained through all of their schooling.
Yeah.
If we want them to buy on and we want this plant to become part of the pharmacopoeia as a true alternative to the opiates and other pharmaceuticals that are out there, we need to play by the rules. And the rules show that we need to control dose, chemical profile, and dosing regimen.
It's pretty logical.
I'd say
How
so.
much will the GoFire cost when it sort of gets to scale on the market? What do you think?
So we're pretty set in our numbers with this. So we actually, again, we realized that because currently plant-based medicine is not backed by insurance, it can be very expensive, right?
It's a nightmare expensive.
It's a nightmare expensive. So we said, okay, well, we need to do our part on the hardware. So if you get the device directly from us off our website, it's $4.99, okay? That being said, if you go through your physician and your physician reaches out to us, or your physician already has a code that they give to you that you can use, you can actually get it for 50% off. So you can get it for $249.
Well,
this is our way of giving back to the patients in need who are truly looking for an alternative solution, again, to get off of some of the pharmaceuticals they're currently on that are inhibiting their life.
patients will have to then use your cartridges to fit the GoFire, correct?
Yes. So we actually we sell the empty cartridges to the product manufacturers. So we have partners all across the U.S. who will actually fill those cartridges
So in
with
different
their
states.
product.
In different
Correct.
states.
We're really a technology company at the end of the day. We develop the hardware and software solutions that again give those patients more control.
And how do you do physician or nurse practitioner outreach? How do you do that?
So we just started scaling that up. In the past, I've been heavily involved with that. We just took on our first medical rep who will be handling a lot of those conversations. But in short, what's been exciting is a lot of them are reaching out to us. Because again, if you want consistency and control, there's no other place to find it in the industry. And that whole program's just gearing up as we speak. Outside of the physicians, the clinicians have also started to reach out to us. Specifically, a group from Colorado State University that's part of their behavioral psychology department that reached out to us because they were trying to study this plant. But again, they were utilizing tactics like here, pack a bowl. 6 months later, pack the same bowl. We're going to weigh it both times and see if how you packed it changed and does that change how your tolerance has changed and I mean the most archaic forms of studying this. Anschutz Hospital, Anschutz Medical, they were doing their studies using the volcano. Yeah. And they were measuring their doses in number of inhales out of the bag. again, I go back to it's the best they have with what they have. It's the best they can do with what they have. That being said, for the first time, we can enable them to do that research in a controlled environment where they can track again, know exactly how much someone was consuming, know the chemical profile, what they're consuming, and when they were consuming
There's
that product.
There's a product out of California called the Dosist.
Yes, I'm very familiar.
So that is a conduction vaporizer, presumably.
That's correct. It is a conduction vaporizer.
I've never really believed that it's that accurate of a dose. What's your evidence?
Well, my mother always said, don't talk poorly about someone. Don't talk about someone if you don't have something nice to say.
Well, it looks really nice.
It looks really nice.
It's a pretty machine.
I'll speak in fact, and we'll say just exactly how it works, and we can let the audience infer from there. So the device itself, how it works is it's a diaphragmed inhale. Essentially what that means is it has a gasket that after a certain amount of time, it's a timed inhale. So if you inhale for 3 seconds, it will shut off at that 3-second mark. If I inhale for 3 seconds, it'll shut off at that 3-second mark. Now, they're basing their assumption on dose control that you and I inhale at relatively the same rate, and that your lungs and my lungs are relatively the same size, and all these other variables that you and I are the exact same individual. The problem is you and I are very different, and our lung sizes can differ. Again, this is something where I'd call on Joe Keenan, but I believe it's upwards of 30% in lung size. Outside of that, if you are an 84-year-old woman who weighs 92 pounds versus a 25-year-old man who weighs 220 pounds, most likely that man is consuming upwards of 3 times what that older woman is consuming, purely just because of, again, the differences in
power of the lungs.
The power of the lungs. Yeah. So take it or leave it. What I can say is
that was very nicely done.
We'll stand up to the regulators when they come in and they want to test this and look at this and say, are you actually delivering this dose? We'll stand up. We've done our tests. We're looking at between 2.45 and 2.55 milligrams per click is our accuracy. So that's actually far under the pharmaceutical level of tolerance allowed by an FDA approved product.
So we're going to create a video of this so we can actually show the audience what this looks like.
Excellent.
Okay, it's Podcast Plus.
There we go.
Final question though is the effect of terpenes, the smell molecules, which a lot of us know are either direct the high or direct some of the healing. How are you accounting for that?
So, again, I go back to my job is not to interpret the information. That is not what we do at GoFire. We purely are looking at and presenting, essentially acting as a conduit to collect this information from the consumers on an anonymous basis and give it back to others who are looking for similar relief. Personally, I firmly believe that terpenes affect the outcome of a specific chemical compound, a chemical profile. That being said, we're still figuring all of that out and what that looks like. Yeah. But I go back to there's so much misinformation in this space. I never want to be a part of that problem. And so we purely act as a vehicle that communicates, essentially acts as, again, that anonymous portal, an anonymous window for a new consumer to step in and see what's going to work for them.
Peter, you're very well spoken. How old are you?
I am 27 years old.
God damn you. And what's your ethnic, not your ethnic, what's your educational background? What enables you to do this?
So I'm actually a 2-time college dropout.
Congratulations.
But I would say
where did you drop out?
First I went to school at Warren Wilson down in North Carolina, right outside of Asheville.
Warren Wilson. Yeah, what's the second one?
Warren Wilson. And then the second one, I transferred out to CU for business admin and management.
That would be Colorado University?
Colorado University up in Boulder.
And you studied what?
And I was in school for business admin and management. The first time I was in school
you should have gone to podcasting school. You have a good voice.
The first time I was in school for writing and philosophy.
Great.
It was a completely
completely useless, like I know.
But that
So,
being
come
said,
on.
that being said, you know, my mother always said, if you're going to do it right. So when I did withdraw, I withdrew with relatively perfect scores, which I'm very proud of. That being said, I think, you know, what I've done, what we've done is go out and find the individuals that have the knowledge, have the experience to pull this off. I've mentioned my Joe a couple times, Joe Keena, our CTO. He's pushed through upwards of 30 different products through FDA approval. 4 of which of those were medicinal lung-based inhalers. One of which I'm sure everyone's familiar with is the Advair inhaler. It's a purple circular puck.
Yeah.
So my tactic, again, as my 2-time college dropout, is go find the smartest guys and bring them into the room, right? And that's what we've been able to achieve. And again, I'm the lucky guy who gets to talk about everything we do. But at the end of the day, it's my team that's really making all this magic happen.
Well, you're very well spoken, and I can't wait to see this thing. So
Let's play.
we're going to play.
Excellent.
And I guess we're going to put this somewhere on the podcast that it's easy to find, right? Maybe behind Patreon wall. Yeah, so if you're a patron, you're going to be able to see this for free. And if you're not a patron, this is more inducement to support us.
Excellent.
Because then you can actually see this great thing, okay?
Wonderful.
I look forward to talking to you further.
Appreciate
Thank you for your
Joe.
time.
Thank you, Joe.
If you would like to be the first to know what Brave New Weed is up to, you can join our mailing list. Visit bravenewweed.com and sign up today.
Before we wrap, I want to just talk a little bit more about GoFire as our sponsor. We actually tried this device. Remember, Alan? We and it worked incredibly well, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it was amazing, and he took the cartridge out, and you could actually see the oil like precisely dripping. How would you describe it? Like
it sort of drips onto I guess it must drip onto a plate. I can't recall exactly, but that's right. When you adjust the dosage with the dial, you can adjust 2.5, 5, 7.5, and the size of the drop of oil actually changes concomitantly. So it's very visually apparent, isn't it, what you're taking?
What really impressed me about it was that you can search by ailment. So like I need something for anxiety, for example, or I need something to help me sleep. You can literally just search the app and then it'll recommend a strain. And on the reverse of that, you can also, when you put in the cartridge, it reads the cartridge and tells you exactly what the chemicals are that are inside of what you're about to take into your body.
Yeah, so you can actually learn a little as you go. It's a really cool device. And again, anyone who uses inhaled cannabis in small doses, probably for pain or sleep or stress or anxiety, should really look into the GoFire. It's going to be in its beta test. I think it begins in April. So go to gofire.co. And use that code. It's BRAVE, BRAVE, for a special $200 discount. That is our sponsored plug for this series. Thank you, GoFire.
Thank you. Who also took us out to a kava bar.
They did take us to a kava bar. Okay, Alan, tell everybody what a kava bar is.
Oh my goodness. So there's the island of Vanuatu, which is way out near Fiji, and the culture, they like dig up this plant root, and I guess, is the plant called kava? I don't actually know, but they I don't know. They
just
they
remembering the taste of it.
Oh
Sorry.
God, it's a root, and I gotta say, I was not a fan of the taste. It tasted like dirty water that people had washed their feet in.
Yes,
but
that's a good description.
But the effect was incredible. And
Well,
I
how
think
would you describe it?
just like I smoked a whole bunch of hookahs at once. Just relaxing.
It's very calming. Some people say it's like a mild opioid. You slept like a baby that night, as I remember. I didn't sleep a wink. So go figure. But yes, GoFire did treat us to our very first kava experience at a place called Kava Sutra.
Kava Sutra.
And maybe that's ultimate Denver for you.
I don't know. Would Silicon Valley have the Kava Sutra Kava bar?
We'll have to see. Maybe someone from Silicon Valley will invite us out to examine their scene soon.
I've always wanted to start a hamburger joint called the Mega Bite, BYTE.
Oh, don't do that.
Thanks for listening to the Brave New Weed podcast. This episode and all future episodes are made possible by amazing listeners like yourself. If you like what you've heard, we encourage you to show your support by giving $1 a month for special access and rewards on patreon.com/bravenewweed. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram via @bravenewweed. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/bravenewweed. And remember, you can always find more information about us or information discussed in each episode by pointing your favorite browser to bravenewweed.com.